right, we should be back after some technical difficulties, but it's all good. Things do happen, but we are back. As far as I can see, we are live on Twitter, which means we should be live on YouTube as well. With that being said, just in case you missed the first attempt, welcome to the Smarkast sessions. This is Emano from Emano Talk. I got my co-host Kev with me. We were talking about Super Showdown and some recent events because Kevin and I haven't really spoke about wrestling, on the show, live on the show. We speak about wrestling all the time, though, on the side. But we haven't spoke live on the show since NXT TakeOver predictions from Portland. And a lot has happened since we were talking about Super Showdown and about The Undertaker. We were recently mentioning that Undertaker is just way out of his prime, obviously. He's way out of shape. He dropped AJ Styles almost because he lost grip of this choke slam, and it kind of took away from the quality of what was seeming to be a great match as a gauntlet match for the 2-8 Cup or trophy, whatever it is. And we were transitioning on over to discussing Bill Goldberg and how Goldberg won the Universal title from The Fiend. Now, the last thing I was telling Kev was that, we have these newer superstars, and Kev was talking about how WWE is almost relying on these legends to carry the show. And, one thing I wanted to say is I don't even know if it's like them relying on these legends to a point. Like, I think, obviously, yes, these legends draw, and a lot of people tune in more when a legend shows up. But I don't even think they need to rely on them anymore. They have such a great base of talent that it's not really necessary. And especially around this time of year leading into WrestleMania, they should be building up these newer superstars or newer characters of developing superstars. So discussing The Fiend, right? The Fiend faces Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, and he's damn near unstoppable. Seth Rollins hit him in the head with a ladder that was sandwiching his head with like this giant sledgehammer, and he still didn't beat The Fiend. But The Fiend loses to Goldberg in 4 spears and a half-assed jackhammer. And Goldberg obviously can't carry him in a jackhammer like he would back in 1999, obviously. Now, I don't know what to take from it at this point. The Fiend is in a building matchup toward WrestleMania with John Cena that I like. But did he have to lose the Universal title? You just diminished this whole character that you built up as this unstoppable being. What did you take from that match?
The biggest thing I took from it was, besides the fact that they're burying Bray Wyatt, obviously, is that there's inconsistency then in how the matches go and how effective moves are is what I'm trying to say. Seth Rollins had to curb stomp this guy a million times, and The Fiend kicked out no matter what. So Goldberg gives him 3 or 4 good looking spears, but a terrible looking suplex. It was supposed to be a jackhammer.
Can't even call it a jackhammer because he didn't even get him up all the way.
Yeah, and he loses from that. He doesn't kick out 3. It's just not convincing. It's not good. And that even the Saudi Arabia, their audience, they were booing it and giving it a thumbs down, and that's really rare for them to boo legends like that. They're very respectful.
They push for these legends to show up. They push for the legends to just show up on the show.
Yeah, it's a big reason why those legends are booked for those shows. So the fact that even them, they're saying that they don't like it. I just don't understand. WWE can try to push the narrative all they want that that picture of Goldberg having the Universal title has the most likes, or apparently they claim the most likes they've ever gotten on a photo. I don't know if that's actually
how
true.
And a lot of the time I think of these Instagram bots and stuff like that if you use a hashtag and stuff, obviously it can manipulate a like. So I don't buy likes. I actually buy the product. That's what I pay for. I paid $9.99 a month for the WWE Network. I paid, a good amount of money. I don't even need to say how much money I paid to go to WrestleMania, but I get good seats every year to WrestleMania. And I don't pay for my money to go to waste. And it's I love Goldberg. Y'all see the cutout. I said it, earlier on the first attempt. I got the cutout right here, and I love it when he comes back. But did he need to come back literally with no story build for a Universal title match and to beat by far your greatest character on the show, if you ask me, and let alone a character that you built up to be unbeatable? Did he need to destroy them? Goldberg is 54. He's not a squash match wrestler no more. If he is, it's got to be against guys that don't mean shit, but not against your Universal Champion. Why does Goldberg need to be the Universal Champion right now? There's no reason for it, let alone that he wins it pretty much a pay-per-view and a half before WrestleMania, because I don't consider Super Showdown a real pay-per-view. It makes no sense to me. And then the worst part is when you go into SmackDown the next night, he comes on the show and he goes with his typical "who's next?" And of course, Roman Reigns just comes out, literally only says, "I'm next," drops the mic, walks out the ring, and they say, "And there you have it, folks. The matchup is set. Roman Reigns versus Goldberg at WrestleMania." Are you fucking kidding me? Like, that was so disappointing as a fan, and I love Goldberg. I can't stress it enough. This is my favorite wrestler. But I don't want to see that match. I'm going to be at WrestleMania. I don't want to see that match. I would have been okay with it if he didn't have the Universal title. If he didn't destroy The Fiend, I would have been okay with this matchup, right? Like, maybe Roman Reigns goes into an Elimination Chamber match trying to become the #1 contender for the WWE Universal title, loses, maybe comes out like how Cena did for 34, and he's like, I don't know what I got to do to get on to WrestleMania. And then Goldberg comes out and he's like, "You're next." You know, something like that. I would have been okay with that. But for the Universal title and how they built it, it went to shit for me. I don't care to see the Universal title match. Have it go on in the pre-show. That's a pre-show match in my eyes. I don't need that shit to be on WrestleMania. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm genuinely upset about this shit.
What upsets me about it is that this isn't like something where they had no other choice. You know what I mean? Like, they could have still had Goldberg show up to this pay-per-view, show up to WrestleMania, get all these viewers without destroying Bray Wyatt. This is the perfect time for them to do one of those goofy ass finishes. They would have had way less heat. People would have forgotten about it eventually. This is going to be really hard for anyone to forget. And on top of that, it's like they're taking away, like, they were forcing. A big reason I stopped watching wrestling was because they would not stop forcing John Cena down everyone's throat. I was the biggest John Cena fan when he first started wrestling, like a lot of us were, and everyone was into him when he first won the WWE Championship. But it just became predictable, like how Roman has become. It's predictable when he's put in matches. It's predictable when you know he's going to win, just like you know Roman's going to take the title off of Goldberg at WrestleMania. I just don't understand. Now the one time we all want him to go after the title, they take that away from us, and it just makes no sense to me. That's like John Cena is the face of WWE, and the fact that they just I don't understand it. Like, it wrote itself. Like, you didn't have to do anything.
Nothing.
All you could, like I said, you could have done a screwy finish. It could have been that Goldberg looked like he was about to beat the Fiend, and the Fiend ran away. He disappears. There's so many ways you could have gone about it, because WWE is known for screwy finishes. So, like, this was the perfect time to be doing one of those. And so if you really didn't want to have Goldberg lose, which I still don't see a reason why he can't lose, but either way, if you want to protect both of them, I think there was a way to do it. And just I'm all for John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. I think it just would have been way better for the title. The fact that Cena is currently tied with Flair for 16 title reigns, and they both have the most title reigns out of anyone in WWE. And the fact that now, they just brought it over to Roman and Goldberg, and then on top of that, it's like I was like kind of into the storyline, like where they left off the story on SmackDown, where Cena was saying he's not going to wrestle at WrestleMania. He's going to leave it to the younger talent, just for Bray Wyatt to show up behind him, point at the sign, and then Cena basically says, "Okay, never mind, I'll face you." It's like one of those things. Why did he have to say that he's not going to wrestle this year? You did that story last year, so like clearly no one was buying into it. Number one, and number two, there's just no reason for it. Just don't say it. Like, we don't need you to say that you're not going to WrestleMania. Just don't make that the storyline. He should say that he's, say anything else. Like I said, he could have just said that he's going after the title for the 17th time. Like, that was the story right there. But like, I really don't understand, because now they worked so hard to book Roman back up so that everyone wouldn't hate him, and it was kind of working. He really wasn't getting boos, and I think this is like totally just going backwards. Like, you had the crowd chanting "You both suck" to Roman and Goldberg. Like, what do you expect at WrestleMania? I really don't know, and I don't know how any Roman fans can be defending it at this point. Like, how could you like this? Like, what the outcome is going to be. I can understand, like, you thinking Roman's a great sports entertainer and all that, and his storytelling is great, and he's like, no doubt about it. But like, and that he can hang with a lot of these big guys. That's what's so impressive about him too. But at the end of the day, it's like, what's going to happen, and it takes me out of it. If I already know what's going to happen and it's just predictable, then I don't care. So it's not so much Roman that's the problem. It's the way that he's put into everything, like how Cena
Yeah.
was. It wasn't really the Cena was the problem. Cena, that promo that he cut was amazing. It like reminded me that a lot of these guys now cannot cut a promo worth shit. They really can't. It's not convincing. And I think Cena did an amazing job being a babyface on the last time he cut a promo on SmackDown.
Well, let me say that when he was on the show building that promo, I thought the promo was fine. I hated it up until the Fiend came out and just pointed at the sign as generic as it is, and then just the show ends. I thought it would have been great. The lights cut out and the Fiend attacks Cena, setting it up, and then the next week let him explain his actions. It would have been better too if the Fiend was the champion, because he could have attacked Cena or like cut a Firefly Funhouse and been like, well, who's going to, be my friend at WrestleMania kind of situation, and maybe him and Cena just are able to, go from there. I don't know how they could have played it off any better than that, because you're right. Cena could have chased 17. The Fiend, builds up his character, goes over Cena at Mania, I think, at that point, because I don't see any reason why Cena should even pick up the title, but it would have been a phenomenal match because Cena's in great shape. Obviously, he's not far out of his prime, and he could still put on a great match. He could come back at any time, cut a phenomenal promo, and build a story if necessary. I mean, I thought he did it at WrestleMania 34 when he built up the story with The Undertaker. I thought that was one of the best builds for a very mediocre moment. Like, it was a terrible moment, but, that's neither here nor there. But he could have done the same with The Fiend and put The Fiend over as, like, a real contender. And then after Mania, yeah, let Roman and The Fiend do their thing. But with Roman and Goldberg, as far as that goes, it's like, you could have done Roman so much more justice, because the fans have, it's been hard for the fans to get used to Roman, to want to like Roman, to accept Roman. We accept Roman because we know he's a great talent, but the way he is utilized is what takes away from his character and why the fans can't connect with him. And you had a chance to fix that.
And one last thing about all Cena, Roman, and Bray Wyatt. I you know I think it would have been totally fine, honestly. I know a lot of people say that had it been Cena versus Wyatt for the title at Mania, that Wyatt should have won. I think actually I would have preferred if Cena won, because Wyatt has to lose it to someone at some point, and I think that's a long enough title reign for a first title reign. It's like a lot of people always say, he doesn't necessarily need the title, especially not all the time. And he had a lengthy great he had a I think he's had a pretty long enough reign if it were to go to WrestleMania. I think he won in like October of last year.
Yeah, because he won it like around Survivor Series, kind of. But I mean, the one thing I would say about that is that if Cena were to win it, I would want him to be back full time at least for like a few months, because I wouldn't want it to be a cheap reign.
Yeah, agreed.
But I think it would be right if he won.
Oh, agreed. And maybe that's why they didn't go with it, because they couldn't get him for that full-time schedule. But either way, you could also, because I guess you can't go with the route they do with Lesnar, where he was like not showing up all that much. But anyway, real quick, to wrap that up, Cena, even Reigns, as much as I wouldn't have liked it, it wouldn't have been as bad if Cena or Reigns beat Wyatt for the title, because you already know those are like the superheroes of WWE. You know that those guys like they're supposed to be booked like that. They're just over the top. They beat all of those types of guys. They beat like the biggest villains. But Goldberg, it's just not convincing at all. Like, it just was not convincing that he could beat this guy like even a shoot fight at this point. I get it. I know like Goldberg's way bigger than him and way more athletic. I get that. But it just, from how like he can't even pick this guy up all the way, it's just it looks bad. And so that's why it just doesn't look convincing. So if you had to have Wyatt lose to someone, I think it might as well have been someone who is already overbooked and someone who you kind of would expect to beat Wyatt.
Yeah, I would have been more okay with that than this whole Goldberg situation. I don't know if it would have been my go-to situation, but it's better than what happened in actuality. But enough harping on that part. One thing I did want to talk with you about a little bit, though, and we're going to get more back into like WrestleMania season, like leading into WrestleMania season, but I want to talk about AEW Revolution at this point. Because I think this is a good place for us to tie in AEW, because I know you watched Revolution. I finally caught up on Revolution myself. I actually want to say there's two ways to look at this pay-per-view. If you want to look at it, as the quality of the matches and stuff like that, it was decent in a more leaning like toward the good manner. Like, it was probably like a 7 or 8 out of 10 for me, right? It wasn't phenomenal, but it did its job. If you're looking at it for like a turning point for them, this is pretty much like a 9 out of 10, right? Because I think this pay-per-view perfectly set up their future for them. Like, as far as like story goes and stuff like that, like they've been building their stories really nicely, and now it's starting to unfold. And I think Revolution really got to that. I mean, if you want to look at like the Cody and MJF match, I love where MJF is headed now. Like MJF on Dynamite this week, he cut a great promo. Cutting on everybody. It's not even like he was just like aiming at one person at this point. Like he went on everybody, and he was able to make a statement as far as him being like a real deal world title contender. And I think he is now technically the number one contender for the AEW title. Um, Cody didn't lose anything from that match either, and it catapulted their young talent, right? You actually thought I think you said that if I'm not mistaken, one of your favorite matches, if not your favorite match of that night, was Darby Allin versus Sammy Guevara, right?
Yeah, I thought that was one of my favorite matches of the year. I think that match was so underrated. Like, and I've been shitting on AEW lately, so let me just say, like, if anyone's saying this, I think like it's really not getting enough credit because like this really impressed me. I thought their chemistry was amazing, and I just thought the spots were amazing. I didn't think it was too much of a spot fest. I thought there was some actual storytelling and some in-ring psychology. I loved it. I just thought they blended so well together.
Yeah, honestly, like it hit from the first moment it started, essentially. And I was really happy with the way it went. I thought it was a very strong showcasing of two of your younger talents. I mean, both of these guys are like Sammy Guevara, if I'm not mistaken, is 26, 27 years old. Darby Allin is like 23, 24 years old. They're both phenomenal talents with high ceilings as far as their potential goes. And in my opinion, I know at least Darby Allin is going to one day be AEW World Champion worthy. I mean, if he's not already considered that, I know within the next 3 to 5 years he definitely will be. Sammy Guevara has that potential as well if he breaks off of this inner circle thing, which I'm sure that will happen down the line. And I'm sure that's probably why he's a part of the inner circles, because people like Chris Jericho probably see his potential and want to, keep an eye on him and make sure he's developed properly. And that's what I loved about that match. I don't want to say it was my favorite match, but it was my favorite match in understanding that AEW is looking to secure their younger talent as big picture stars, but they don't want to rush anything because obviously they see how sometimes maybe other companies, and obviously we know what other companies we're talking about, may rush, these kinds of situations, or they may, miscarry the situations, and it kind of like messes everything up for that talent. Like, I mean, one thing we're gonna probably get into is like Ricochet, right? But we're not gonna talk about that just yet. But obviously, you know what that's at right now. But yeah, Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin, they definitely carried the torch for the younger talent, in my opinion, with this one. So that was the best showcasing match. Another great match was the tag match for the tag titles with the Young Bucks versus Omega and Page. But there were a few takeaways, right? So let's start off with this first and foremost. Dave Meltzer. There's a lot we got to say about him, right? Meltzer, quote unquote, apparently called this the greatest tag match ever. Let's take that moment of silence to understand how stupid that was. That is not true by any standards. Like, Dave Meltzer saying that is one of the most ignorant statements I've ever heard of. I mean, obviously, one of the marquee tag matches in history is like the WrestleMania 17 tables, ladders, and chairs match, or even WrestleMania 2000. Obviously, you have great tag matches. For example, one that you and I look upon is like that. I think it was what? It was a 4-team like elimination match from 2002 Survivor Series with like Edge and Rey Mysterio versus Los Guerreros versus I forgot who else was in that match. I think it was like Benoit and Angle, and that was a phenomenal match, which I thought was far better than this Omega, Page, and the Young Bucks match. But don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to shit on this match. This was still a great match, but the fans are hyping it up a little too much. I felt the match was a little long. There were a few extra spots that really didn't need to happen that were just obviously for, looks and sparkles and shit like that. But it was still a great match. I think it told a great story. And I think going forward, it's going to help AEW, you know, build Adam Hangman Page as a star. But I still, in my opinion, I don't believe Omega and Hangman Page even need those titles. You have a lot of great tag teams that now you're just shunning away essentially, or you're like holding off on for what? I mean, you could have had this without the titles, and it could have been a matchup between Omega and Page versus the Young Bucks, where there was like, some animosity between the elite, and they were just handling some, inner friend circle kind of like feelings, I guess, at that point. But how did you feel about that match?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the match was fine. I mean, I understand the story, and I understand why they enjoyed the match, and I enjoyed the match too, but not to the extent where I could say that was the best tag team match of all time. I think that's really crazy to say, honestly, because there's so many matches that I can remember I enjoyed way more. A lot of the NXT tag team title matches, whether it be with the Street Profits, Danny Burch and Oni Lorcan, Sanity. There's so many of those tag matches that just were like I remember walking away like feeling high from those matches just because of how much I enjoyed them.
I
And
mean,
I
War
didn't get
Games
that.
2017 is a tag match by technicality, and that was one of the greatest matches we've seen in NXT history. I mean, you got
Yeah, and,
DIY versus the Revival. I could name a bunch, but you're right.
I mean, and everyone has their taste, but it's weird that Meltzer says that, and then and like that might be his opinion. It's also the fact that one of the teams in that match has a finisher named after him, so I think there's a little bit of bias there. I don't know. So just the fact that he says something, and then all of a sudden, so much of the wrestling community just tends to hop on that same idea. It's like, do you really think that, or is that actually just like, are you just going off because it's a buzzworthy match right now? I just don't think that that's actually you're being truthful in that and thinking that it's truly. And if you think that, that's fine. I definitely disagree with that, and I don't think it's anywhere near one of my even. I don't even think it's in like the top 10 best tag team matches that I've ever seen. There's so many that I can think of that are just way better, especially when you think of the ones that have like Edge and Rey Mysterio, the Guerreros, Kurt Angle and Benoit. You can seriously go on the Hardys, the Dudleys. There's so many of those that I can think of that I personally enjoyed way more. I think they were way more impactful on a mainstream scale. Bringing awareness to wrestling on top of that. So that's just what I think. And another thing I just want to quickly say, how you were mentioning it. You don't think that Omega and Hangman Page need the titles, and that I personally think they are like not really using some of their talent the way they should be. Like not Private Party, Angelico and Jack Evans. I've said this before. I think they are one of the best tag teams in the world, and for whatever reason, you treat them like jobbers. And it's fascinating that no one seems to talk about it. The only time I've seen a few people mention it on Twitter, their excuse for Jack Evans not being used that much is because he has bad knees. If he had bad knees, one, why have I seen him do some amazing things in AEW that why is he even being allowed to do those to begin with if he has bad knees? And second, why'd you sign him if that's the case? Doesn't that seem a little bit hypocritical that you shit on WWE for not using your talent? So I mean, I just don't understand how you're letting things slide with AEW. You need to hold them both accountable. They both do great things. Both shows have a lot of great things that I think they both do, and they both I think do stupid shit, and I think they both have things to improve on, and I think we need to be realistic about that and stop acting like AEW is perfect and that WWE everything they do is shit. The problem with WWE really is that one of the biggest problems is that they do things that are so bad that you forget about so much of the good shit that they do, and they need to stop. If they would stop fucking around like that, we would
Oh, Kev, you
much
there?
a better idea about them.
You cut off for a quick second
Yeah.
at the end there, but what was the last part of what you said?
Oh, just that WWE they do things that are so bad it like we forget about all the good that they do. And so when they like the Goldberg shit, we just forget about all the other great things that they've done
Because
recently, how Raw has been.
Look at Randy Orton right now. Randy Orton's on fire.
And I keep forgetting about that because all you think about is Goldberg and Undertaker and Roman and Corbin on SmackDown every fucking week, just being annoying. Like all that shit, it just adds up. And then like they're not using like really good talent that you want to see, like Mustafa Ali, that you don't see him very often. You don't see Cedric Alexander. There's a ton of guys that just aren't being used. But like I said, AEW is doing the same thing. I don't know why they're pushing Dark Order so hard. Obviously, I know they're going to a storyline with that, but I don't think they're more deserving to be pushed like than Jack Evans and Angelico are. That's like my point. There's other wrestlers that I think you're not utilizing, and just also questionable booking decisions just overall. But like I said, I'm not trying to shit all on AEW because there is a lot of things I did like about the show. So we'll move on.
Yeah, Revolution, I feel it just planted a lot of seeds for AEW, and Dynamite this week was honestly really good as well. I don't think it was their best episode, but there's a lot that left you wanting more for next week. And I don't know if you got to watch it, but this week Jake the Snake Roberts actually appeared on AEW
Yes,
Dynamite.
I did see that.
Dude,
Yeah,
he
I saw
cut a
it.
great promo. I was
Oh yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
thoroughly surprised. Not like surprised in the sense of like, wow, Jake the Snake Roberts knows how to cut a promo. Obviously, Jake the Snake Roberts is one of the greatest, people on the mic ever. Like, he's always been top notch in ring and on the mic. But obviously, Jake the Snake Roberts, within recent history was going through some stuff. And obviously, you don't expect him to come out of this when he hasn't really been around like that and cut such a great promo. Like, I loved everything he did. I think it was one of the best promos of the year, if not the best promo of the year so far. Like, that was so
Yeah,
good.
agreed.
Like, everything he did, and he set up such a hanger as far as people wanting to see who's his client. You could go either way, right? It could be like Brody Lee if Brody Lee shows back up. We know Lance Archer's now signed to All Elite Wrestling. That could be somebody, right? And you could go so many ways. He could even be upping a newer superstar, right? And we don't know who it could be just yet. But Jake the Snake Roberts is a great person to have as like a manager. And I loved how he even came after like Arn Anderson, calling him a one-trick pony, calling Cody Caesar. I thought that was one of the best parts. Like the moment that he was like, "Hail Caesar." It was like the mighty Caesar, and it was like, wow, like that's so crazy because obviously people look at Cody Rhodes like, oh, this guy's only going to do nothing but build himself as a superstar. Honestly, I give Cody Rhodes a lot of credit so far in AEW. He's only done nothing but put people over. I mean, he lost to Jericho, he lost to MJF. He brought Darby Allin up, when they had their no contest matchup back at Fight for the Fallen, Fighter Fest. I know he did beat him later on, but still, like he's done nothing but bring up superstars, and I feel like a lot of people are trying to act like he's only been bigging himself up. I think he's been doing a great job, and I think this is going to be another one where they need a new superstar to like get some momentum. Why not put him against Cody? And Jake the Snake Roberts really set that stage for that superstar. I just hope they follow through with it very thoroughly because that set up one hell of a platform. Like, you're going to be put on a pedestal at this point. You got Jake the Snake Roberts next to you. He killed it with a 10 out of 10 promo. Who's it going to be? How are they going to step up? I'm actually fucking excited. I don't know about you, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I really, really want it to be Brody Lee, who was obviously
Same.
Luke Harper on
That's who my
WWE.
pick is. That's who my pick is. It's Brody
Uh,
Lee. I think Lance
I
Archer
mean,
is good on his own.
yeah, and I'm not familiar with Lance Archer, so obviously I'm gonna prefer Brody Lee. But I loved Luke Harper, and like I always thought he was WWE champion worthy, not under Vince's booking, but he had everything to be a world champion. And I really think if you put him in a match against Cody, that could be potentially both of their best matches ever. I think their styles and the storyline, it will be perfect. I think that would be such a great match and a great feud. And I think that will really help put Brody Lee into, you could really move him up eventually to the world title scene. I absolutely think he can hang in that main event spot.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited, and I think he would be a perfect candidate for that. Dude, go watch some Lance Archer matches though. Lance Archer is the real deal. Like, he's really dope. I think him versus John Moxley would be a great matchup. They've already fought in New Japan, but I think if you actually let them build a real story together, like that would be something crazy. They could even work as a tag team, in my opinion. But they're both like solo riders as far as like their characters go. But him and Lance Archer have great chemistry, and I think they could make a great story. And Lance Archer he's like 42, but he's honestly at the top of his game right now. He's a great character. He's a phenomenal heel. He runs hell in New Japan. I mean, I love him. I think he's a great character. He's become one of my newest favorite wrestlers as of recently. And I'm excited to see what they do with him in All Elite Wrestling. But let's talk about a few other topics, right? We had mentioned Meltzer a little earlier. Now, let me actually pull this up so this way I can speak fully factually. So, the Wrestling Observer newsletter every single year has like their Wrestling Observer newsletter awards. And I think it's like the first one is that it's voted on by the fans, and that, Meltzer later on does reveal his own. But let me say something, man. The Meltzer fans got to be some of the stupidest people I've ever seen. And it's been proving that wrestling fans are so out of whack with what's I don't know, like I don't even want to say if it's like what's really going on or their opinion or they don't understand or whatever it is. But let me give you an example, right? So two of the categories is best gimmick and worst gimmick, right? So best gimmick, and there's a number next to it. What I'm going to assume is that that's how many people voted for it, okay? So for best gimmick, The Fiend Bray Wyatt he was at number one, like the number one best gimmick was 282 votes. He won, right? Worst gimmick, number 3, The Fiend Bray Wyatt. So is he the best or is he the worst? I really don't understand it. And 179 people voted for that. Like how am I supposed to make sense out of that? Like, is he the best or is he the worst? I would assume he's one of the best gimmicks that has happened in the past year. Why are we even voting for him to be the worst? I understand people have their opinion, but how does he get number 1 and number 3? Then you look at like best promotions and worst promotions, and you have WWE in the top of the list on both of these categories. I'm going to try and get the exact number, but what do you take from these kinds of lists that come out?
I mean, I think they're ridiculous. To say that WWE is worse than Impact and Ring of Honor right now, um, I can't take that seriously. Those promotions to me are straight up unbearable. They cannot. No one is worth my time on there, and I'm like the biggest Rob Van Dam fan, and I can't even. He's not enough for me to watch that show because it's that bad. I have tried many episodes to watch both of those shows, and it was tough. Seriously, like I was so bored watching it. There's no interesting characters. There is such a weird vibe to both of those shows right now. I was really getting behind Ring of Honor when like the Hardys and the Young Bucks were a part of it. Not that I'm like a huge Young Bucks fan, but during that time period, I thought they had a pretty decent roster. And even had at one point there was like Will Ospreay, I think at the live event that we went to, he wrestled there. So there were some interesting matches that they have had, but at least WWE has some things like appealing to them. When they do things right, it's great. And I think that's unfair to, like I said, they do all these stupid things, and I think it makes everyone forget about the good that they do, because they like, and it makes you like, you really have to think about what's like the good stuff they're doing right now, because the Raw and SmackDown this week sucked, honestly. And SmackDown has been sucking since it's been on Fox, but Raw was on a decent path, but you forget all the stuff Brock Lesnar has been doing lately has been phenomenal. Edge and Randy Orton, that storyline is great. Edge returning at all is such a huge deal. Like the fact that we've already like, I feel like it's been watered down a little bit because of all the bad shit that's been going on in WWE. It's not as impactful as it should be. As it was that initial moment he returned. It's like I think there'll be more of that interest once WrestleMania gets closer, but. It seems like we should be more excited for WrestleMania, and we're not, because of the decisions they've been making lately. And I think that's a big reason why WWE got number 1, but it doesn't excuse the fact that there's people out there that really. I don't think they truly think that it's the worst. I think they're just acting like it's the worst because they've gotten so pissed off. It's the most offensive wrestling promotion, absolutely. It could be the most disappointing. Yeah, sure, I could see that. But to be the worst, I don't think so, because I'm at least tuning into WWE. I'm not giving Ring of Honor or Impact the time of day. And the fact that AEW was even number 7 on that list, New Japan was nowhere to be found on the list, but AEW is number 7 after all this hype it's been given. That's strange to me too. But that could just be WWE, the diehards that really want to hate AEW for whatever reason. Because I'm not trying to hate on any promotion. That's just like my natural feelings. I think they both, like I said, they both do stupid shit. So
Yeah, because all right, so like for example, right, WWE got voted number 3 as the best wrestling promotion. I can agree with that to an extent, right? Maybe number 2, I might put them slightly ahead of New Japan in my opinion. Although New Japan does have great matches, it's hard for them to tell a story that fans could grasp onto unless like, I don't know. It's more. I feel like New Japan is more like anime based, in an opinion. That's my opinion, but I still think their matches are phenomenal, right? But then for worst major wrestling show, you have 5 out of the 6, that are listed here on Twitter are all WWE shows. There's no way that's true. I definitely can tell you there are probably Impact shows that I could list over some of these, because you're talking about one of them is Hell in a Cell in Sacramento this past year. Was it great? No, but it could have been, or I'm sorry, it's probably better than something that I could find from Ring of Honor or Impact within the last 12 months. Guaranteed. All right? They even put WrestleMania 35 as number 5 on the worst wrestling show. WrestleMania 35, in my opinion, really was not that bad. It was long as shit, yes, but it really was not that bad. I don't know why people are putting that as number 5 worst wrestling show, but then voting WWE is the number 3 promotion. This is exactly what I believe it is. Like, I don't understand why they look to, push the envelope on social media, for example, like with spoilers, like people obviously trying to make a big deal out of Matt Hardy going to AEW, if he even is. I used to love it back in the day, like when a superstar could just show up on a show. Like when Jericho showed up on Monday Night Raw against The Rock, and nobody, like, people were able to slightly predict it, but like you know, it was still a surprise to a good amount of the fans. That was what made wrestling back then, in my opinion, was that you were able to have the element of surprise. There's no more surprise because the fans, they fight for things that they feel like they understand, but they really might not. And it pushes the envelope because they complain and complain and complain, thinking it's going to change things, but you're not trying to provide resolutions, or you're not trying to, you know, like prove that the method that WWE is going by isn't working. You just complain about it. And if you complain about it, it's not going to fix anything. And it's like, you're you're also saying at the same time it's one of your favorite products. It's like such mixed signals. Like, what are the fans going through that they don't understand how to properly, like, you know, give the product what it needs? Like, you're not benefiting the product any means by just complaining and then saying that it's great. It makes no sense to me. And then even when you are complaining, it doesn't even seem like it's facts. It just seems like it's like biased opinions. And that's where, even like when we were talking about like the AEW bias, that people don't look to hold AEW accountable the way they do WWE. Is it maybe because WWE does things on a bigger scale? I really couldn't tell you, but from what it seems like is that AEW also has that global attention. So what is it that the wrestling fans need? Like, fans are really not giving anything to the world of wrestling other than a whole bunch of negativity at this point. Do you have any take as far as like what the fans are even saying with all these Wrestling Observer newsletters?
No, just like I would just, I think they should hold both of them accountable, AEW and WWE, in all promotions really. But I think a big reason why WWE has so much negativity towards them is because of it's like they do shit on purpose to piss everyone off. And I get the frustration a lot of the time. Um, it's just weird to me that, I don't know, it's like AEW, they still get excited over things that I'm just like, really? Like, I don't know. There's just some like booking decisions that I'll see on AEW, and I'm just like confused, or I just don't necessarily agree with it, or I'm not excited about it. But the crowd seems to be into it, so I don't know. Maybe it's a difference of opinion, but um, that's just how I see it. I don't think it's like I think they both have shit they could just different decisions they could be making to make the product a lot better and connect to a bigger audience. Because while a certain amount might like it, I think there's also a lot of AEW. There's a lot of wrestling fans who aren't tuning into AEW, and I think they could be a lot bigger than they are right now. And if they really wanted to, I think they can compete with WWE. Maybe not to, definitely not take out WWE, but I think they could be close. They can be getting close to 2 million viewers on TV if they did things differently. So I think it kind of holds them back by a lot of their silliness, and um, just a lot of their goofiness. And like I said, with WWE, they do their goofy shit too. Of course, like that bullshit with the spider from Eric
Yeah,
Rowan
that
coming out.
ruined that whole build. Like, what were you even doing with it then?
Now we all knew it was going to be so stupid, and it was going to have no payoff because that's what they do. But like, AEW, they also do like a fucking match with like Scooby Doo in it. It's like, and I don't care if it's a dark match. I don't give a fuck. Like, you're still doing it. It's still, that's what you're showing to your audience. So like, and like they act like everyone acts like they never do any other goofy shit. Like, you have goofy shit. Like, you have Jungle Boy. You have fucking Luchasaurus. Like, I'm not into that. Like, I don't think it's like cool or funny or endearing. Like,
Well, I
I'm
like
not into
Jungle
it.
Boy, but Luchasaurus has been like a little difficult to like.
Yeah, agreed, and I agree with that. I like Marco Stunt. I love. I really really like Marco Stunt because he's like his own thing. He doesn't bother me. But like that Luchasaurus shit, he's very strong and very athletic. But I just don't like the gimmick. I think it's too goofy, and you can't see him as a world champion like that. It's not interesting to me, at least. It's like they just got to take things a little more seriously with the gimmicks, and just like WWE does too. So that's all I mean. It's just I think they both have their bullshit, and the product could be a lot better if they change some things.
Yeah, but I think it starts with the fans being honest with the product, and it's like, when that's what I'm saying is, when you're honest with the product, you can help build the product. But speaking of helping build the product, right? One rumor that came out before we jump into the Elimination Chamber, um, was Ricochet, and obviously with Super Showdown, he didn't have that great of a match. He got squashed by Lesnar, and then shortly after that, like a few days after, I want to say that a rumor comes out that apparently Vince McMahon does not understand what's so good about Ricochet. Pretty much that he doesn't like Ricochet. That obviously he probably agrees that he has a great in-ring capability, but it's probably Ricochet on the mic. Now, why can't you help build this character rather than put him in front of the fire and just let him burn? Like, it makes no sense. Like, you literally threw him to Lesnar as like food. Like, you gave him no shot against Lesnar. Lesnar, beat him in, I want to say, less than a few minutes, maybe a minute or something like that. It was almost as bad as Kofi, in my opinion. But how are you ever going to build talent if you never give them that chance? How did you feel when you read this rumor?
I think like he's just being so unreasonable with these talents. Like if Ricochet doesn't impress you, I think you're the problem. Like I mean, there's so many of these amazing wrestlers that he's just not impressed with, and I think it's bullshit. Like, how could you say like obviously we all know Ricochet's not good on the mic. He knows he's not good on the mic. He's said it before publicly. How? But I don't understand. He should be more than enough in ring to carry himself over. He did it just fine on NXT, and I know it, and Triple H has always said it that if you can get over with the NXT crowd, you can get over anywhere because it's so true. That sample size is enough. If you can get over with them, that will translate wherever they go. So Ricochet was already getting over with Raw, especially when he was teamed with like Aleister Black. That tag team, and they were just talking about this today or yesterday. Aleister Black and Ricochet, they were like tweeting at each other about this, saying that they kind of miss being in a tag team together. Like one day they want to be back in a tag team together, and I wouldn't mind it at all because for the time being, even though it didn't really make sense and we all wanted them to eventually be solo stars, they weren't doing a whole lot anyway, and they weren't going to be put in title slots anyway because it was too soon. So to build them up, I didn't think it was a good idea at first, but it ended up I really liked that. I thought it was really enjoyable. So Ricochet has done a lot of great stuff in NXT and his tag teams. And a little bit after that, even, I just think they really dropped the ball with him. And I think the booking is what's killing him. He's not, I don't understand what he's doing wrong at all because putting him in that match with Brock Lesnar was a terrible idea. It should have never happened. Brock Lesnar, you could have put him against like we talked about. You could have against Rey Mysterio again if you had to. Put him against whoever, just like not whoever, but you know what I mean. Like you could have thought of someone else to do it.
Someone that could afford the
Yeah,
loss. And Rey Mysterio would have been
yeah,
a good candidate for that. Honestly, Bobby Lashley would have been a great candidate for that because you could have finally
yeah,
gave that Lashley Lesnar matchup, and it would have at
yeah.
least been
Why
a
are they holding
convincing
up on
loss.
that?
I don't know
I
what's going on, but you're gonna let Bobby Lashley walk away without that match happening, is what I feel like.
And that's so stupid. I think that's like one of the few things he actually wants. And it's
Lashley
like,
said he's only cooperating with this whole Lana thing just so he can work his way into having that match with Lesnar. He said he's doing everything with WWE, knowing that at the end game he gets his match with Lesnar. And I don't understand why you wouldn't give that match. That's bound to be a great match, no matter what. You have two titans literally clashing. That's a matchup that should have happened back when Bobby Lashley came out, but Lesnar stepped away from wrestling. But it's a match that you could give the fans now, and it would still be something that goes over heavily with the fans. But you got to do it before it's too late.
well, I don't know about, and it would need to be built up, and I don't know how you build it back up after all the shit that's happened in Lashley. But had you just like, you could have done it when he came first initially came back when he was still he had some hype around him, or you could have if he already lost his hype, you could have just done it at a Saudi Arabia pay per view. That the crowd's gonna be not into it anyway because of all the other shit that's going on. So might as well just do it there and have that's a way that you can have Brock win. We don't expect Lashley to have the WWE title at this point.
I'll give you an example, though. I'll give you an example, though. You ready for a storyline example? Okay, so you can have him and Lana have like a falling out. Lana's like essentially like preventing him from having the match with Lesnar, right? And he just breaks off everything with Lana, and you're able to build him back up as like that face. Lesnar obviously is still the heel, and you could have them go for it. Because it's like it doesn't need a major story build to it, but just give that match. Like some way, somehow, just like show that Lashley's been hungry for that match and push that envelope. Don't push the envelope by just having the matchup finally. No, no, no. Definitely does need a story. I agree with that.
Yeah, and he got over on Impact, so he can get over on WWE.
Yeah, and I think that was huge that he got over on Impact because obviously in WWE, they can make a guy like that, look great. But it's more difficult for a guy like Bobby Lashley to go into a world like Impact and still get over with the fans. But he did. And I think that's why when he came back, it's like Bobby Lashley, I feel, is better now pretty much than he was back then. But you're not utilizing him to what he can be. And that's what I hate is that you're letting talent like that waste. You're letting talent like Ricochet waste. Now, I will say I like where Aleister Black has been. But we'll get into that shortly. I think it's actually about that time where we talk about these predictions. So let's jump on into it. We have WWE Elimination Chamber. It is tomorrow. And it's looking fairly decent. I don't want to say it looks great, but there is some potential there. So let's start off with this, right? Let's start off with. Well, I don't want to start off with one of the Elimination Chamber matches. So let's go down here. I'm pretty sure this is going to actually be on the pre-show. But let's start off with Daniel Bryan versus Drew Gulak. Now, before we pick our winners, one thing I love is that a rumor came out saying that Daniel Bryan has a heavy hand in his creative world. And I like that, obviously, because not a lot of wrestlers in WWE really have that right. And that friends of his are Heath Slater. Wow, talk about dyslexia there. But Heath Slater and Drew Gulak. And that apparently the reason he's having this match is because he wants to get them to have that kind of time because they're both, I don't want to say as much for Heath Slater, but Drew Gulak is a great wrestler. So I really like this match. I think this is going to be one of the best technical wrestling matchups. I don't want to say maybe ever, but this could be a dark horse for like coming out of nowhere as like a match of the year kind of candidate if it goes right. But if it goes on the pre-show, that's also another thing, which I think that's what's going to be because they announced that watch along is going to happen tomorrow. And that Drew Gulak is going to be there. So I'm assuming this is going to be a pre-show matchup. But I'm obviously going to go with Daniel Bryan, but I think this is going to be a match you don't want to miss.
Yeah, I don't see Drew Gulak winning that match, but I'm glad that you mentioned that that Daniel Bryan does have a lot of say in and probably was the one who came up with the idea of this match. Because I was just telling my girlfriend yesterday when we were watching SmackDown that it seems like this is a Bryan pitch storyline. Like I don't think like Vince isn't gonna be like, oh yeah, let's put Drew Gulak with Daniel Bryan. Like, no, you like we all know he's not like that. He's not gonna put an actual good pair of wrestlers to face each other that would have amazing in-ring chemistry. Like, obviously, anyone who's actually a wrestling fan knows how great of a match this could be and how much potential it. These are two of the best submission specialists in the world. Besides Zack Sabre Jr., he's on that level too. But I mean, Drew Gulak can absolutely hang with Daniel Bryan, and I knew that it had to be Daniel Bryan saying, I want to work with Drew Gulak. I know how good he is. And I'm so excited. I didn't think we were ever going to get this match, honestly. So I'm really excited for it. Honestly, I don't care. Even if it's on the pre-show, I think it'll be a lot of fun if they don't restrict it too much and they just let them do some like mat wrestling. It should be a great match. Like man, obviously Daniel Bryan's gonna win. I don't see them at all letting Drew Gulak go over Daniel Bryan. But still, I think the match will be so good that or it should be so good in theory that it shouldn't matter who wins anyway. And I think we all want Daniel Bryan to win. It's weird. I thought they were starting to tease Daniel Bryan becoming a heel again, but I think that's going to be like a really big babyface win for him if he beats Drew Gulak. So I guess they're keeping him as a face. I don't know. They just need to decide whatever they're doing with him. I don't like when they just go back and forth like every other week.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it's a matchup people can't miss. But now probably moving on to what will be on the main card, starting off with the United States Championship. You have Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo again. Now, I kind of want to put a little WrestleMania prediction here. I feel like at WrestleMania, obviously Rey Mysterio, I feel, has a say in this. But obviously we see, this four-corner style, Latin star storyline going on. And I feel like at WrestleMania, we are bound for a fatal four-way match for the United States title. Now you have Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo here. Given that Andrade did just serve that suspension, I feel like they may look to strap up Carrillo, but my pick is going to be Andrade because I really don't want him to lose the title to Humberto Carrillo in a one-on-one match. And honestly, I'm so sick of this matchup. I hope this is the last one-on-one they have for a little while. But I'm gonna go with Andrade.
I think Humberto Carrillo got called up too early. He's not interesting enough in the ring. He's talented, whatever, but he has no personality. Talk about someone that I would give up on. Yeah, I if I were Vince, I would not be fucking booking Humberto in the way that they are. And I think it's gonna end in the next couple of months. I think he will become like Ricochet, where Vince gives up on him. And I'm surprised it's taken this long because I mean I don't see shit in that guy.
Well, I think
Honestly.
it's
Like
because of
he's
Rey
got
Mysterio. I think Rey Mysterio is pushing for all of them to have a decent push, but I think
you,
Andrade and Garza are the obvious stars out of all of this.
if you really wanted to bring up a new talent from NXT and put them in a prominent position where they're facing either for the mid card title or the cruiserweight title or something like that, I would have much rather they put Raul Mendoza, who was Humberto Carrillo's tag team partner in NXT. Raul Mendoza is a way better in ring wrestler to me. That guy is
Mendoza's
nuts, and he is
phenomenal.
so underrated.
He really is. I agree with that. I would
It,
actually like to see that.
And I would hate if Humberto Carrillo, I didn't dislike before. It's like the last month or so that I've really started to
because of
dislike
his
the guy
booking.
because he does nothing interesting. I mean, like seriously, his in ring entrance, like him, the way he gets into the ring, that's about as interested as I am in him. And he's just like way too generic of a baby face, and he could never. I feel like they're gonna make him heel one day, and it's not gonna work at all. Like that's gonna be so forced. Like I'm not into it. But maybe I'm speaking too soon. Anyway, I just really don't want him to win the U.S. title, and if he does, I think they really don't respect that fucking title if that's the case because giving it to Andrade made sense. He's seriously one of the best wrestlers in the world. I still believe that. I just think he's on Raw. He's not putting on the quality of matches he was on NXT. But yeah, Umberto, I'm just not to him at all, and I think it was way too soon to call him up, and it's way too soon for him to have the title. I don't understand how you could already give up on Ricochet and not Umberto. If anything, they should be in reverse roles right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to strap a rocket to Ricochet. You could, if you put Ricochet in this situation, then I would be way more interested. Like I think that would be perfect. And I know Rey Mysterio loves Ricochet. He's called Ricochet pretty much the best wrestler out right now in all the up and coming wrestlers. And don't get me wrong, as you even said, Humberto Carrillo is a great in ring wrestler, but he's just not doing anything that's interesting to me right now. And Ricochet would have fit the slot a little better. But the next match I wanted to talk about was the Intercontinental Championship matchup. You have Braun Strowman versus Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro, and Sami Zayn in a handicap match. I still see Braun Strowman winning. I hate to say it because I love Cesaro, I love Shinsuke Nakamura. I couldn't care less about Sami Zayn in all honesty. He's not doing much for me other than this whole manager style thing. But in ring wise, he doesn't do much for me. But I still feel like Braun Strowman in some way somehow is going to win this matchup.
Is this match for the title?
Yes.
So who is the champion if Braun loses?
I would assume they'd put it on Nakamura. But I feel like that's where maybe their differences are going to come into play. Maybe for all I know, they might even make like a Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro, and Sami Zayn like triple threat match. Maybe they have like some disagreements after this, and they
See,
go after each other.
but they need to make that clear as to who wins the title because to me, by not explaining that, it's like you're saying they don't even know, and that don't worry about it because Braun's gonna win anyway.
If
Which
I'm not
I'm
mistaken,
honestly
though, Sammy on Friday he like said it as when we win the Intercontinental Championship.
also they would all share it like it's a Freebird title kind of thing.
I don't know. I don't want to say for certain, but the way they're making it seem is maybe that would be
Okay.
what they do.
Okay. Well, either way, I think Braun should win. I think he's going to win, and that hopefully, I'm really hoping, and it looks like they're going in this direction that they're building it to a Sheamus versus Braun feud for the IC title at WrestleMania, which I would love for Sheamus to beat Braun at WrestleMania for the title. That's the only title he needs to win to be a Grand Slam champion. I think he deserves it.
And I
I
think
think he got
Sheamus
the
is in great
WWE
shape.
title way too soon.
Sheamus
Was
is in
that?
great shape right now too.
Oh yeah, this is the best he's ever looked.
Yeah.
And I think he's been doing really great. I think he just needs better matchups at this point. He needs like a fresh roster at this point. But I really want them to continue to book him like a monster heel, and he is the guy that can convincingly beat Braun. So I think that's the perfect way to get it off of Braun. I would really like just a clean finish. I feel like they're not going to do it that way to protect Braun a little bit, but why not? Like you've already had, you're not Braun's in an okay position right now. He's not as bad as he was right, in the position he's in. So I think he can afford a clean loss to Sheamus. He needs to lose to someone, and I think Sheamus would be a perfect guy because he's really big and he looks like he can actually, put up a decent fight against Braun. So yeah, I think that'd be the matchup I'm looking for. But anyway, I'm getting a little off topic here. Braun's probably going to retain.
Yeah, Braun retains. I'm glad we both agree on that. Another one is the Raw Tag Team Championship. You have the Street Profits versus Seth Rollins and Murphy. I feel the Street Profits are going to retain. I just wish they would have won at this pay-per-view versus them winning on Raw. But I'm just glad they have the title because honestly, I didn't really want Rollins and Murphy to have the tag titles too long because obviously you have a great tag team division, but they're not being utilized properly. But at least the Street Profits do have the straps, and I think they're going to retain.
I'm actually going to predict Rollins and Buddy Murphy. I'm not going to call him Murphy. It's stupid.
Yeah, Buddy Murphy.
But I think they're going to retain. I think they're going to retain. I mean, not retain. They're gonna pick the titles back up because I don't know. I could just see them doing that. It's not like a very strong prediction. I'm just kind of I could see them doing that. Like
Like
I
a
won't be
hunch,
surprised at all. Was that?
like a hunch.
Yeah, yeah. Like just I don't think it's that like it's not a lock that Street Profits retain the titles. Like I could because they don't care about those titles, so I can see them like wanting to just put it on the Street Profits for just to give them a championship, just so they can shut everyone up and say, okay, they got the tag team championship, but we think it's too soon for them to have an actual title reign, and we really want to put a belt back on Seth Rollins, and we want to continue to. I hope they want to continue to build up Buddy Murphy because he's so good, and I kind of like the direction they're going with, but they just need to continue with the momentum for him.
Yeah, agreed. I want them to make sure this ends properly, but yeah, it's been like it's been a big question mark. I feel like they kind of get inconsistent a little bit with this storyline, but I'm excited to see where it goes because I think it has a lot of potential nonetheless, and I don't think they've ruined it just yet. But a match that I think this is probably going to end up being the best match on the main card. Obviously, I don't want to discount the Daniel Bryan Drew Gulak match just yet. But AJ Styles versus Aleister Black in a no disqualification match. Now I'm going to assume the OC interferes some way somehow, maybe giving AJ the victory. My pick ultimately is going to be Aleister Black because I feel like you need to make this a stretched out storyline kind of because now, this is another WrestleMania prediction for me. What I'm hoping ultimately happens is that rather than AJ Styles versus Undertaker one-on-one, I'm kind of hoping for a OC versus Aleister Black and Undertaker handicap match. Because at least that way you wouldn't have to have Undertaker too heavily involved in the matchup with a lot of physical, dependency of sorts. He's able to kind of like relax and hit his spots where the people want to see the Undertaker hit his spots and where he probably still can hit his spots. It'll still put over Aleister Black because he's in a match with The Undertaker, and it's like almost like a passing of the torch from Phenom to Phenom. And then AJ Styles and the OC will lose nothing if they were to lose at WrestleMania. But I think that would be a better set matchup at WrestleMania than AJ Styles versus The Undertaker. So that's why I'm hoping Aleister Black wins with an assist from The Undertaker or like a frightening gong. And yeah, just make the story go from there.
Yeah, I was gonna say Aleister Black, but now that you bring that up, honestly, that's probably what they're gonna end up doing. So I'll say AJ Styles is probably gonna win.
Okay, I could see AJ Styles picking up the victory. Honestly, I wouldn't even be mad with whoever wins. I think this will actually be a matchup that can't disappoint, and I don't think there's a way that creative would ruin it.
I would just like Aleister Black to win this match because that he shouldn't have even lost the way that he did. And like those matches went on Raw where he had to fight Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows. Those matches went on too long. He should have squashed at least Carl Anderson.
Yeah, like one of them rolls in and he hits him with a black mass, and then that's it.
That's all they need to do for him. Yeah, there was no reason why he needs to have an actual competitive match with him. It wasn't even a good match. So, yeah, I would really like Aleister Black to win because I think they need to protect him a little better. Like on NXT, I loved that he pretty much didn't lose. He only lost, I think, to Ciampa when he lost the title.
Yeah, and that was due to
and that was
interference.
great. That was a great time for him to drop it. It was shocking. It was like you didn't see it coming,
And we were
and
there.
it just for me at least, there was so much heat on Champa at least for me. So I mean, I thought it was great when they did that. So I think like you really should be careful when you're having Aleister Black lose, and I think that was a mistake to have him lose on Raw. So like I said, I think at this point AJ's probably gonna win.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm going to stick with Aleister Black on that one. But now moving on to the Elimination Chamber matches, I'll start with the women's one. For the Raw Women's Elimination Chamber, it's the winner goes on to face Becky Lynch at WrestleMania. Now, I will say this. There was a rumor that dropped today that said apparently there may still be another match announced to this card. My assumption would be that's for the SmackDown Women's #1 contender matchup. But from what is announced at this very moment, which is on Saturday the 7th, the day before Elimination Chamber, you have the Raw Women's Elimination Chamber match where the #1 contender goes on to WrestleMania to face Becky Lynch. You have Natalya versus Liv Morgan versus Shayna Baszler versus Asuka versus Ruby Riott versus Sarah Logan. I'm going to flat out say Shayna Baszler is definitely going to win this match. Obviously, Becky wants the matchup. Obviously, she's, the heavy favorite in this. I think the one person who could sneak up and win this out of nowhere is Asuka, but I don't see Asuka winning this, so I'm going to go with Shayna Baszler.
Yeah, Shayna Baszler I think is a lock, and I hope Asuka's booked really well at least, and that it's a really competitive final two. A bold prediction I'm gonna make is I think Natty's gonna last until either the bottom three and possibly the bottom two. I just think she's gonna at least last until the top three, bottom three, whatever you want to call it, the final three that are left in the chamber. And I think Sarah Logan is gonna be the first one eliminated, which is a shame because I think she's really underrated and she hits really fucking hard, and it's very convincing when she strikes someone. So I wish they would book her a little bit stronger, and I hope one day they do. But I hope that I mean I'm afraid that it's going to be one of those things where they give up on her too because there's not much to her. But I think they need to really give her a chance. Everyone that's been the Riot Squad has so much potential, and they're really good. So I hope they're booked a little bit stronger. And I like everyone. I love every wrestler that's in that chamber tomorrow, the women's chamber in particular. I like them all. So I mean, I'm actually really excited for that match. I'm not gonna lie. This is like the most excited I've been for at least a women's chamber and probably any chamber that's happened in the last few years at least. So if anything, I'm not too excited about the pay-per-view, but even though the outcome's probably going to be kind of predictable, I'm still excited for the match.
You and I both. And one thing I hate to say though is that there was a rumor that came out that Vince McMahon isn't even big on Shayna Baszler, that he thinks she was very underwhelming on Raw, and I could see how, but you can't really overbook her just yet because she's a new presence to Raw. I feel like the Chamber though is a great way to set her off. But I will say the one moment where she came out and bit Becky in the back of the neck, like that was a very like stunning moment. I don't know how he didn't love that. I feel like if anybody would have been going crazy over that, it probably would have been Vince because it was so out of the ordinary. That how could you not like it? I mean, and it was very unpredictable at that. I thought it was great booking when she did that, but Vince is Vince. Obviously, we discussed that he doesn't like Ricochet. We obviously know he didn't like EC3 or like Luke Harper. But that's neither here nor there. But do you have any take on that as far as him feeling that way towards Shayna Baszler?
It just goes back to what I said earlier that he gives up on these superstars way too soon. And it's like you haven't even seen what she can do yet. Like you haven't watched NXT at all. She killed it on NXT. Like she took the women's division to another level on
Yeah.
NXT. And I think that's bullshit. Like he does not let things like anything. He's just such in a rush. It's like if you can't impress me within 2 seconds and you're not proving that you're like you can be the top of this company, then don't waste my fucking time. Like I'm starting to think that now. Originally, when I thought it would be a lock that Shayna would win that title at Mania from Becky, now I'm starting to think that Becky is going to win that title for sure because he really likes Becky, and she to me has cooled down tremendously. Like
Oh
she
yeah.
needs to stop fucking being a clown because she's starting to give me Seth Rollins vibes, and like it's not good. Like it's really starting to get cringeworthy and. Like do whatever you want. I mean, certain fans are into it. They think it's cool. Sure, I just don't think it's sick, and I know that a lot of the wrestling community that I've seen, they've made it very clear that it's not cool and it's really lame looking honestly, and it's like if you compare it to when Becky originally turned heel the first time, and or when she even got punched by Nia Jackson, when around Survivor Series and she had the bloody face, even at that, it's such a different Becky that we're getting, and it's just I'm totally not into it. Her matches have not been great lately.
I feel like
But
she's not even into it anymore.
I don't know, man. I really don't know what it is, but I think it's just lately with the gimmick, it's trying too hard, and it's not even like it's not clever. It's not it's like that's another thing. Becky used to be really clever, and like I thought her wittiness and her comebacks were great, and lately I'm just been like these aren't good. They're just like really bad comebacks. Like they're not funny. They're like they're making you look bad, and I don't know. I think you should just if you don't have anything interesting to say on the mic or anything, then just say it in the ring. Just I don't know. They gotta change something about her because, or at least take the title off of her because the fact if they're gonna keep it past Mania, man, oh my God, it's way too long of a title reign at
Yeah,
this
it would have
point.
been overdone. But I guess we just gotta wait and see on that one. But the other Elimination Chamber matchup that is announced is the SmackDown Tag Team Championship matchup. Now, this week on SmackDown, they had the gauntlet match to see who would be the last one entering the chamber. And I want to say I actually really enjoyed that gauntlet match. I loved how they booked Heavy Machinery. It built them up greatly. I think it elevated the storyline between Otis and Dolph Ziggler. But Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode ultimately walked away winning that matchup, and they will be entering the chamber last. So obviously we have to say that because it does play an effect to some way somehow. Now we know The Miz and Morrison are the champions currently, and it's versus also the New Day, Heavy Machinery, Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler, and the Usos. Now, me personally, I would love to see the Usos win, but I'd prefer to see them win at Mania. I think the Usos should definitely have the straps back. I almost want to say I feel like Heavy Machinery might win. Now, given how the gauntlet match went, I almost feel that either A, and this is actually going to be my pick, A is my pick, The Miz and Morrison are going to retain, or B, Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler steal it from Heavy Machinery, that like Miz and Morrison get eliminated early on, and we already like have the idea that a new champion will be crowned, and that some way somehow Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler are going to win by beating Heavy Machinery. I feel like that's a good like secondary thing, but I feel like ultimately the Miz and Morrison will retain.
Yeah, hmm. This one's a tough one because I'm leaning with either Miz and Morrison retaining or Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode winning those to but I don't know how much heat it would really gain by Dolph and Robert Roode winning those titles. So I'll probably say Miz and Morrison are going to retain them because I kind of think they're kind of high on that team right now. I think Vince is fine with Morrison and Miz. I think the thing is they don't really cause a lot of problems for him, so I think he's fine giving them the title. Like he's like, yeah, that's a good thing we can do with them. Give them the tag titles because we don't really think they're that important anyway, and it's a good way to give wrestlers respect
And
and
they could take a
something to
loss at
do.
Mania.
Yeah, and it helps, it helps keep Morrison away from the main event scene, which I'm sure Vince would never want. So I think he wants to keep him down. He's like, oh, maybe later on, yeah, we can make him Intercontinental Championship, but that's later on. We'll see about that. So I think they'll retain for that reason. It's a good spot for them to be in, and we're invested enough into it. It's fine for what it is, and they could put on some fine matches. I don't. It's not harming anyone. I think by them being tag team champions still for a little bit longer.
Yeah, agreed. But that would be all of our Elimination Chamber picks in the shows tomorrow night. I think I want to say probably starting at like 7 p.m. as always. I'll probably be tuned in a little later because I'm actually going to see Mean Girls with my girlfriend. It's a live play that's going to be here, so I'm pretty happy about that. It was my Christmas gift to her. But yeah, I will be at that place, so I won't be watching live, so nobody spoil this shit for me. But I will be watching later on. Elimination Chamber is definitely one of the more exciting pay-per-views, or at least back when you and I were watching wrestling, when we first started watching wrestling, I should specify. That was one of the marquee matches, and it was one of the most unique matches, so it definitely holds a spot in my heart. So I'm excited to watch it, and nonetheless, it's the last pay-per-view before WrestleMania. Speaking of WrestleMania plans, we'll definitely be doing a live show the morning of WrestleMania. I'm pretty sure Kevin and I will be together, if I'm not mistaken, but we're going to figure that out. But if we are together, obviously we'll live stream together. But regardless, we got some takes for you as far as WrestleMania goes. WrestleMania weekend is looking pretty exciting. Hopefully I'm going to have some more news for you guys as far as some plans that we'll be having in Tampa. But one of the plans we will be having, I'll probably be at NXT TakeOver, but the Mew Awards, once again, they will be happening in Tampa, and Emano Talk is nominated for Podcast of the Year. You could vote until tomorrow midnight. I have the link in our bio on all social media, so if you go on Twitter, you go on our Instagram, you go on our Facebook, if you go in the link that's in our bio, the very first thing it should show you is vote Emano Talk for Podcast of the Year. You could vote as many times as you want. You don't have to vote in every category, but there are some great categories to vote on. We've had guests of the show that are nominated, such as Drew Swace for Debut Project, Toon Day for Breakthrough Artist. Mikey Moore has 4 nominations. Kay Charles is nominated for a collab project. So it's pretty dope to see, guests of the show also being nominated and the show itself being nominated. So get your votes in until midnight tomorrow. You have to go to the end of the ballot to make sure you submit it. I've had a few people that just chose Emano Talk, X'd out the page, and the ballot was not submitted. You do have to go to the end of the ballot to submit it. That's one thing I do want to let you guys know. But make sure you follow us on social media, guys. That's at Emano Talk, at EMANOTALK. You can find us on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Twitch, Mixer, and Twitter, obviously. But make sure you subscribe, rate, and review on all of those. You could listen completely free and watch completely free at emanotalk.com. Huge shout out to our sponsors, Marie's Baked Munchies. They actually put out their famous key lime pies. They're officially out. You could exclusively buy them on emanotalk.com. They come in 2 sizes, $8 for a 5-inch personal pie, $15 for a 9-inch full pie. The 5-inch pie feeds about 1 to 2. Me and my girlfriend literally had one together. It was absolutely perfect after a dinner for both of us to eat together. 9-inch pie could probably feed about 4 people, 5 people. So if you're having a little party and you want to bring a dessert, it could work out for that as well. We have our deluxe edition, or their deluxe edition, key lime pies. as well. You know, those special kinds in case if maybe you want to do a little exploring for yourself. You could get those for $25 or 2 for 40 as well. We do we do offer delivery on emanotalk.com since we're being their exclusive store, but Marie's will deliver it to you. Who knows though? Maybe I might make an appearance as a delivery driver. But yeah, make sure you guys get your key lime pies. They're actually absolutely delicious. I was thoroughly surprised with what Marie was able to do with those. But yeah, we'll be back Thursday with Baz the Nomad, and that'll be at 8 p.m. And then next Sunday with Kush Clark as well. That'll be at 11 a.m. But we're taking tomorrow off. There will be no Emano Talk tomorrow, but I will be posting this audio by tonight, so you could tune in tomorrow morning if you didn't see it tonight. So hopefully if you're watching this at a later date, thank you for tuning in first and foremost. But thank you to everybody who tuned into the live stream. I appreciate y'all through the technical difficulties and all. Kev, you already know I appreciate you, my brother, and I can't wait to see you, around Mania weekend. We got a lot of fun plans hopefully in store around then. But yeah, I'll catch y'all next week. Much love and take care, guys.